what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we're doing the What's Next on Badou Jack, the former 2-division world champion who is fighting at cruiserweight and trying to become a champion in a 3rd weight class. He returned on the Usyk Joshua undercard, 2 undercard, and took on undefeated but little known Richard Rivera. And had some trouble with Rivera in the first half of the fight, but like a lot of Badou Jack fights, he turned up the heat in the second half and closed the fight strong. It went to the scorecards where he took a close 10-round split decision over Rivera. Nobody outside of Rivera really disputed it. I think it was close enough to call either way, but Badou Jack walks out the winner. So, you know, it really, you know, begs the question of, is Jack really at 38, I believe, is he, you know, on the level of the other cruiserweights? Can he compete in the cruiserweight division? Or was Richard Rivera just a good fighter and Jack, you know, did well? I think it's somewhere in the middle. We got to wait and see what happens when he steps up his game. But now the big question is, what's next for Badou Jack? And we're going to run through the top 10 and see what could be possible, right, you know, in his next fight. We start with number 1, Jai Opetaia, the newly crowned undefeated IBF champion. He's coming off of that upset decision victory over Maris Bradis, where he claimed the top spot at 200 pounds. I don't see this one happening. And the reason being is Jack's not even ranked in the IBF at all. And I just don't think it's a big enough name, if that makes sense, for Jack right now. Even though he is a world champion, I think Jack wants to mix in world title with a name so he can max out as much money as possible, you know, before the fight. So, you know, I just don't see it, especially with Jack not being ranked by the IBF. Number 2 is former champ Maris Bradis. Now, I wouldn't completely rule this out, but I don't think this fight's going to happen. I think Bradis, his style to Jack's is not one that Jack would really want to get in there and mix it up with. So I don't see it. I mean, I'm not ruling it completely out. Bradis is a veteran. He does have a name. Jack might say, hey, I'll fight a former champ to see if I'm good enough. But I'm leaning towards the less likely. But, hey, you never know. It could happen. Number 3 is the former 2-time cruiserweight champ, Junior Dorticos. Now, this fight, I think if the WBA orders the fight, it could happen. The reason I'm saying that is Riyad Merhi, who is the interim champion, has been stripped of that title. Instead, because he passed on a mandatory ordered rematch with Arsene Goulamirian. And Goulamirian has been renamed, you know, or is the only WBA champion now. But Goulamirian, the champ, almost 3 years out of action now, has been reordered to fight Alexei Gergov, or whatever his name is, Gagagorov or whatever. He's been ordered to fight him, and he's the WBA's number 2. Well, Dorticos is number 1. Badou Jack is number 3. That's his highest, well, it's his 2nd highest ranking right now. But if the WBA orders Dorticos and Jack, this fight could very well happen. I'm not sure Jack wants to get in there, though, with a guy of the power of Junior Dorticos, unless he really believes he can pull off the victory. A win will mandate him a title shot against the winner of Goulamirian and Igorgov. So, you know, it's just up in the air on whether Jack wants that fight, because he can get it. You know, he can get a mandatory title fight, or he could get a, you know, a mandatory title fight if he goes through the former champ, you know, right here. So it's going to be interesting to see if, you know, what he makes the attempt at, if he wants to go through the punching power of Junior Dorticos to get to a title shot. I don't know. Next up is the undefeated WBO champion, Lawrence Okolie. I don't think Jack is going to sign on the dotted line to fight Okolie right out the gate, even though he could probably get the fight with Jack just fighting for Matchroom and DAZN, you know, on one of their cards. I think Jack could probably get the fight with Okolie, but Okolie, you know, is trying to unify belts, and I just don't know if Jack sees that as a good matchup. But this is the other title that Jack is highly rated in, the governing body. He's number 2 in the WBO, and Chris Smith is number 1. So it definitely could be a possibility that Okolie and Jack fight each other, even though I don't think that's going to happen. But again, it very well could. Next up is WBC champion Ilunga Makabu. As another fight, Jack is ranked down there in the ratings, but if Makabu doesn't have to fight Alexei Papin next in a rematch, and he's already had a what's his name pass on the fight, Riyad Merhi passed on a fight with Makabu, maybe Jack can squeeze in and go after the WBC title. I think he's probably the most beatable champion of the 4 right now. Jack is ranked in the WBC, although it's not very high, but if they're giving Makabu optional mode for his next defense, maybe Jack can squeeze in there. I wouldn't completely rule that out and go after the title. He did hold the super middleweight title, the WBC super middleweight belt. That was the first title he held, so you never know. Now, number 6 is Noel Gavor, contender. Gavor is coming off a win over Yuri Kalenga, a nice win. He's lining himself up for a title shot. Actually, I think he's lining himself up with a potential showdown with Alexei Papin to earn the title shot. So in the WBC, so we'll see. So I'm not seeing this one. I also think it's a bad matchup for Jack anyways. Alexei Papin, he's the WBC's number 1 contender. I think they're loading him up for a mandatory showdown with in an eliminator with Noel Gavor next if they don't hand him the title shot. So I don't see Papin and Jack being possible. And next is Mikel Cieslak, former 2-time world title challenger, coming off the loss to Okolie. He might be a good step in the right direction, but he's also a risk. So I'm not sure Jack is going to want to take that kind of risk. And then you got, rounding out, you got Tapiso Michunu, who's number 3 in the WBC. He's coming off of the controversial split decision loss to Ilunga Makabu in their rematch. Maybe Jack tries to move up the ladder in the WBC and goes after a guy like Michunu next. Another guy, I'm not sure it's the best matchup for him, though. So I'm going to lean towards the less likely, but you never know. And then finally is Sergey Kovalev, who just recently made his cruiserweight debut and was successful. And he's also a former champion. If the fight can be made, then I definitely could see these 2 guys locking horns, and it might be the fight that both of them go after, since they're both kind of named former world champions. So we'll see. But that's pretty much it. You know, Badou Jack, he definitely could line himself up. He could fight Chris Smith to become the mandatory in the WBO for Lawrence Okolie. He could fight Junior Dorticos to become the mandatory in the WBA for the winner of Gulamirian and Igorgov. It just depends on what Jack wants to do. He could fight Sergey Kovalev. He's got a lot of pull considering he's a name and a former 2-division champ, but it's going to be up to what he wants to do and if he wants to take those risks against some of these cruiserweights at 38 years old. So we'll see what happens. But that's it. That's what's next on former 2-division champ Badou Jack following his close 10-round split decision victory over Richard Rivera. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.